In his 93 years of life, it's fair to say that Shimon Peres saw it all. He was not only a former politician and leader, he was also a cornerstone of Israeli-American relations. U.S. President Richard Nixon used to personally send Peres his books, Ronald Reagan used to compete with him at telling Russian jokes, and Bush Sr. would personally pick up the Israeli leader from the airport. Joining us today in the studio is a former Israeli ambassador to the United States and a close friend of Shimon Peres. Thanks so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
So, this is a very sad day for the entire world. You were appointed by Peres to be Israel's ambassador to the United States. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, first of all, I have known him even before that, he has always been very admired by his staff. He was very personable and, of course, a towering figure, you may say larger than life, a real leader which brought a lot of respect to Israel. I think he was the most respected Israeli abroad, and also an elder statesman. So in that respect, it's a great loss. And you were right, he is the last of this generation of founding fathers of the modern Israel. He was very much involved in every juncture, which was an important one. He is very much responsible for building Israeli military industry, Israeli aviation industry. Of course, Dimona, our nuclear reactor. He's also responsible for that. And during his political time, he not always was a consensus figure. But when he became president, I think probably he was one of the best presidents Israel ever had, and then he knew also how to reach across the aisle and to really unite Israelis from all political persuasions.
No, absolutely. I mean, he was so focused on improving Israel's image worldwide. We always used to say he was kind of like the Queen of England, in the sense that he was the face to Israel. Right. Peres was an example for diplomatic relations. What do you think his secret was?
I think, if I can say it in one word, curiosity. He was the most curious person. Everything interested him. Innovation and research and science, whether it's the cosmos or whether it's brain research or nanotechnology, he was always very, very curious. And then he didn't see himself as or he did see himself as part and parcel of the Zionist movement and the state of Israel. And he was also, in a way, humble enough to take jobs which were, in a way, smaller for him. After he was already prime minister twice and minister of defense, he agreed to be minister for regional cooperation under Olmert in 2006. But he always wanted to serve. No matter in what capacity, he always wanted to serve.
What's so interesting, I opened my Facebook this morning and I was talking about this with other members of the ILTV team. You just see picture after picture of people posting themselves side by side with Peres. I mean, he was so involved in just, getting out to the people as well. That's probably why he took all these positions, because he wanted to stay so involved. There are a lot of great stories about his relations with U.S. presidents, more specifically. Is there any story that you particularly remember?
I remember quite vividly one when I was in Washington, and he came, must have been 2002, 2003, when he was still the foreign minister under Ariel Sharon as prime minister. We had a briefing with the press. So there was one of the prominent reporters, journalists from, I believe it was Washington Post, it was in his hotel, and he asked him very bluntly, Mr. Peres, what would you like your epitaph to be? So Peres looked at him, he says, listen, I'm not going anywhere, you can hold your breath, but if I really have to think what to write on my grave tomb, I would say a voyage from Dimona to Oslo. In Dimona, I tried to prevent war. In Oslo, I tried to make peace. And if you think about it, that's really his voyage from the reactor in Dimona, which really gives us a real strategic deterrent against any of our enemies, to Oslo, where he did try to make peace, but unfortunately, to no avail because there was no partner.
Well, many say that one of his biggest feats, more than just being president and prime minister, was the work that he did to create a nuclear program for Israel, although that does remain very secret. And to this day, we don't know all the information about that.
And by the way, he is the one who really articulated the Israeli policy, nuclear policy, which is Israel will not be the first to introduce nuclear weapon to the Middle East. Now go figure. This is our policy, and this is what is repeated by any Israeli diplomat or politician when asked internationally if we have nuclear weapon. Of course, we do not say not, but we say what he articulated. Israel will not be the first to introduce nuclear weapon to the Middle East.
Absolutely. So now with the U.S. elections ahead of us, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen with Israeli-American relations. How do you think we can continue Peres's legacy in the future?
By being bipartisanship. By being bipartisan. I mean, he really believed in bipartisanship, and he had the greatest relations with both Republican and Democratic presidents. He had very good relations on the Hill with the Republican Party, with the Democrats in the Senate and in the House. And I think this is the most important thing. When he was asked many times who would be, I think it was during the Bush-Kerry campaign of 2004, he was asked who would be a better president for Israel. And he said, the better president for Israel is the one who will be the best for the United States. And who is the best for the United States is for the American people to decide.
It's a very, very good point. I hope that we can continue to remember Peres's words. I don't think that will be a problem here. He's so loved by everybody. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.